Awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to Never Buy Salad Dressing Again as part of our summer market. I want to say welcome back. I see some familiar faces from our first session, so I'm so happy that everyone's getting involved today. My name is Susan. I'm part of the college events team here at the college. I'm going to be your host today. And in this session, we're going to hear from executive chef Russell Weir on how to make his favorite salad dressings. So yum. I certainly am, I asked to be a part of this session because I'm very interested. Always a great savor to be able to make your own salad dressing. So before we get started, I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items. If you look below, you're going to see that there is closed captioning, and you just press the little CC icon if you want to turn that on. Throughout this session, we encourage everyone to ask questions, whether you want to raise your hand and I can ask you to speak, or if you want to put it in the chat. And we really want to create some dialogue and get everyone involved. I was saying in the last session, we think about what this would be if we were on campus, and while we're all still remote, the whole idea is today to get everybody together, thinking about summer. It's a beautiful day outside. And so we want to get everybody engaged. This session, I already talked about the closed captioning. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. So I want to go over, what Chef is all about. Hopefully we all have seen him on campus, and it's always so nice to have him involved in these events. So Chef was born and raised in Ottawa, but his passion is for Canadian cuisine all over Canada from coast to coast. His philosophy towards cooking relies on using the highest quality, sustainable ingredients sourced locally wherever possible. And I certainly can remember, being in the CAF and thinking about how intentional that always is, and always really appreciated it. And I'm very much looking forward to coming back. Anyone who knows me knows that I have an addiction to that pizza and can't wait to get back on the campus to have it. So Chef believes in a simple, honest approach to highlight those ingredients. Chef has worked in hotels, restaurants, and resorts before joining the college in 2011 as the executive chef of the food conference services. Currently, Chef oversees the menu planning and the production for the campus dining, and over 10,000 transactions per day. So think about that. Obviously, an extremely organized human being. So I want to say thank you so much for Chef for joining us today. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining on the call. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to turn it over to Chef to enlighten us with some salad dressings. Over to you, Chef.
Hi, thanks a lot, Susan. Thanks for the introduction. Boy, I don't really have much left to say about myself, but I will add, you did mention that I was going to do 3 salad dressings that are my favorites, or 3 of my favorite salad dressings, which is true. But we do here an endless amount of salad dressings. We can take advantage of the seasons and take advantage of the harvest and take advantage of whatever's going on outside of our doors and make salad dressings out of them, just to mix things up. And in the essence of time, I chose 3 popular ones that are popular amongst our students and a lot of our staff. Just a little bit about the salad dressings. We do a vinaigrette, and we do an emulsified vinaigrette, and we do a creamy one. Those are the 3 basic type of dressings, and I chose one of each. And you did mention local. We're very locally oriented here. We try to buy our produce from as many local products and producers as possible. So the herbs, the fresh herbs that we get from Abbey Hills Farms, which is actually in Richmond, not that far from here. We use mustard that's produced locally from Mrs. McGarrigle's Fine Mustards and Foods down in Merrickville. And when we can, we use cheese, typically from St. Albert's or some of the other artisanal producers. So we do that. And we're going to start getting into vinegars and various other things as well. So we are using lots of local products. And I also took into account that a lot of people out there actually grow these things in their gardens, and sometimes they don't even have a choice of just actually growing there. So the idea was to just go out, pick them, spend 5 minutes in your kitchen, and you can make a salad dressing. You can use the salad dressing immediately, or you can put it in your fridge and keep it for, depending on what we have, we can keep it for up to 2 to 3 weeks really in the fridge. So the first one I was going to do is just basically a fresh herb vinaigrette, and I chose fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, and in my recipe I had chosen oregano. But today the basil was so aromatic I had to actually grab the basil and forego the oregano. I could probably add them all, but I wanted to go with those three. So can you smell that? I mean, it's absolutely amazing. You just can't not use that. Right? So in the recipe, I've got one bunch, and this is typically what I'm going to call a bunch. I take my hand, pull it off, I got a bunch. I'm going to make this an emulsified vinaigrette, which is to say I'm going to blend the acid and the oil and the herbs together with one of these emulsion blenders or stick blenders. Everybody should have one. You can get them for about $15 at President's Choice or whatever. Or you can do it in a blender. I'm not going to do it in a blender today because our blender is way too big for this small amount of dressing that I'm going to make. But I did want to talk about that. You can throw everything in the blender, turn it on pulse, 5 minutes, it's done. You can do the same thing with your stick blender. So just to make it a little easier for the blender, I'm just going to chop this up with my hand. And I'm going to toss it into a container like this. I'm using a straight-sided container as opposed to a bowl. And that's because when I use the emulsion blender, it's going to come up, and I want to be able to get all of it mixing at the same time, whereas that wouldn't be able to happen with the rounded sides. So rosemary, easy enough. Just pull it off with my hand backwards off the stem, because I don't really want to use those stems. A little bit like that. Comes out pretty easy. I'll give it a little chop with a knife, again, just to make it easier on the blender. And I'm just going to throw it in there. And I'll use some thyme. Same thing. Thyme is a little bit more finicky. It comes in its own little bunches, and in order you don't really want the wood, so you take each individual little piece and pull off the thyme leaf. This is actually another aromatic, very aromatic. It's quite amazing, actually. I like to use a lot of thyme in this vinaigrette, but you don't want to stand there and watch me do this for half an hour. So it's an ordinary amount of time. That goes in there. We're going to do some garlic. Garlic, by the way, we buy for the last several years. We've been buying from Silver Springs Farm. They have a garlic program there, and it's a fundraising program. Basically, the people that live there, they go out and they plant garlic in the spring. And actually, some people from Algonquin, the horticulture department, go out there and give them a hand. And they put in the harvest, so to speak. And then they go back a little while later and they harvest it. And we again go out there and help them do that. And then I come along and I buy it all. And we preserve it in various ways. We can keep it in oil. We roast a lot of it, actually, and then freeze dry it. And it usually gives us enough garlic for the whole year to use in our salad dressings, in our pastas, our pizzas, and all of our sauces. So pretty happy about that. So I wanted to actually talk about garlic. Everybody knows how to use it, but for me, I find that the fresher it is, and there's several different kinds of garlic you can buy as well, and they all have characteristically different aspects of them. So this one here, the skin is pretty much close to the actual garlic, and I can sit here and try to peel it off, or I can just smash it with my knife. And it separates the garlic from the peel, and it can just come right on. Very easy. So I'm going to chop it just roughly. There, that's not too big of a chunk of garlic, is it? You can probably do that. Put that in there. And then we're going to do oil and vinegar, essentially. And to make a proper emulsified vinaigrette, in order to get the emulsification happening, it's essentially 3 parts oil to 2 parts vinegar or acid. In this case, the acid is going to be half red wine vinegar and half lemon juice. Wouldn't be fair if we didn't use fresh lemon juice. So the lemon, if you didn't know this, here's a little trick. I'm going to roll this lemon around with my hand until I feel it soften up. I can feel the whole thing softening up. What's happening is there's lobes inside of there that contain the fruit, and I'm releasing that fruit into the lobe when I do this. So I'm going to cut it, and you can actually see how juicy that is. So we're not going to lose any of that juice. I'm going to just squeeze it in here. That's going to be, there's so much in that half lemon, that's almost a quarter of a cup right there. I don't want any seeds, so I'll just filter out the seeds. And I'm going to mix it in with my red wine vinegar. Then, just a little more flavor. I'm going to take that half lemon and I'm going to just take the zest off of it. I'm going to put that in there as well. Notice how everything is just going into this container. It's not science, not rocket science. That's what it is. So, my acid or my vinegar goes in, which was half a cup combined. And now I have 1.5 cups of oil. That's 3 parts oil, 1 part vinegar. The oil that I'm using, this is an important aspect, is it's an extra virgin olive oil. It's cold press. And this particular one actually tells you that it's made for salads. The difference, I guess, between an average jug of olive oil and an extra virgin cold press olive oil is that when it's done, it's essentially not, it's the same process, but it hasn't reached any high temperatures and it hasn't knocked out any of those antioxidants and you know, that's so the flavor is stronger and it's a little more healthy and it's got a viscosity or a thickness which is a little bit more than your average olive oil. So this is not something you really want to cook with. And the other one, really, the cooking one, you don't really want to make salad dressing with. You can come in here with that. See what's happening here. Just missing a couple of extra ingredients. Getting ahead of myself here. I always use 2 tablespoons of Mrs. McGarrigle's mustard, and then the recipe talks about Dijon, and this is obviously not Dijon. What it is maple whiskey mustard, made in America. And then we got honey. So equal amounts of mustard and honey, and that's going to aid in this emulsification actually, and give it a bit of sweetness as well. As I turn it on, you'll see it immediately how it starts to cream up. Give it just enough time to break up all those little pieces that you see in there. Unless you like little bits and pieces of garlic and stuff like that, which a lot of people do actually. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. We use sea salt here, kosher sea salt. A little bit of pepper. Black pepper and fresh pepper out of a shaker is better. So it's pretty smooth. Not very chunky. I'm going to have to taste it. So you may have noticed that I didn't really measure that salt and pepper. Perfect. Is there any doubt? I did make a little salad. Just sort of an idea of how we can use this salad dressing. See how fluffy it is. You can just put a little on there. Over there. That's really all you need. Now, Tupperware. Yogurt containers left over. We tend to use at home. And that salad dressing will last in your fridge more than 2 weeks. It won't separate. It won't go bad. Is there any questions about that?
We have a couple questions that came in, but I'm thinking maybe we get through your other two because I'm sure that everyone wants to see them, and then we'll take some questions at the end when there's time.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Quick question. Everyone said it looks really great. What's that salad that you just put it on?
Well, that's kind of more or less just a basic lettuce and tomatoes and peppers and carrots, and there's some kale, just any kind of a salad really, any kind of garden salad. You can also take that and you can toss it all together and then put it in a bowl if you want, if that's the way you like to eat salad. Some people like to do that. In fact, when you do that, the salad dressing itself will last, will stretch out and give you way more portions than if you do it like that. But any kind of salad, I just wanted to show you how it's going to apply, and it still hasn't separated and it hasn't run all over your plate. Right?
It looks beautiful.
So the next one that I was going to do is raspberry vinaigrette. Everybody likes fruity salad dressings in the summer. I'm definitely one of those people. And when I talk about the fruit and seasonality, we're using raspberries at the moment, but we could be using peaches a little bit later. We can use pear, we can use apple, and we do some pretty wild things with those as well. Sometimes we can take a peach and smoke it. We do smoked meats here. We make smoked ribs and smoked brisket and smoked things like that. So whenever we're doing that, and I have some nice fruit, I can actually smoke that for a little bit. And that adds a really, really nice flavor to a salad dressing. But today we're going to do raspberry vinaigrette. Because it's popular and everybody likes it. So with raspberry vinaigrette or strawberries or anything like that, we can use frozen berries. Nothing wrong with that at all. But since raspberries are basically in season, we're going to use fresh ones. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put those in there. Again with the mustard. 2 tablespoons of mustard. If you ever saw Walk with the Ant, you got 1 tablespoonful, 2 tablespoonfuls of honey. And again, some garlic, but only half as much this time. It's more about the raspberries than the garlic. Remember, I'm going to smash it down. If you're doing it at home, you're probably not wearing gloves, so it's easier. Put up a little bit. There with the raspberries. Add some fresh thyme again. Hurry now because I told you I could do it in 5 minutes, so I'm going to do it in 5 minutes. There it goes. And now I'm using raspberry vinaigrette. You can buy that at a grocery store. Something like that. That's a President's Choice brand, nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to. You can use a white vinegar because you're actually using the fresh fruits. So the raspberry vinaigrette and 3 parts olive oil. Stick blender. Watch this. Give it color of that. Now, I'm just going to leave that like that. I'm not going to I want some chunks in there. I like little bits of actual raspberry in there. So I've got another salad. This is going to look really nice. There's another one. Now you'll notice that that one's a fair bit thinner than the other, than the herbal vinaigrette. The only reason for that really is that we did use the fresh fruit, so there's actually water in there. So that makes it a little bit thinner, and I didn't puree it with the machine as long. I could do that, it would incorporate more air into it, and it would become more solid like that one. But I didn't want to. And I'm the
That one
chef.
looks so good as well. Okay, so I think we're gonna do your last one, but can I ask a quick question? So just one of the questions that came through, and I know a few people as well, not to put you on the spot, for someone that maybe doesn't love mustard, and I know that mustard goes in like a lot of homemade salad dressings, what would be a good substitute?
You could actually eliminate for a dressing like this one. You could eliminate the mustard altogether. It'll still
Okay.
emulsify as long as you use some honey. Some other options would be like a mayonnaise, which I'm just going to show you right now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll get into the third one.
All right, third one, Parmesan ranch dressing. Everybody seems to like ranch. So I'm actually going to start with mayonnaise. Not Miracle Whip or anything like that, but just mayonnaise. We could make our own, but there's no time. So we're going to just put some mayonnaise in there. We're going to add some white vinegar, third of a cup. Third of a cup of the extra virgin olive oil. Some black pepper. Fair bit of black pepper, and if you're using fresh black pepper, you can just keep grinding. Parmesan. Once again, you can. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of Parmesan, and once again, you can use fresh Parmesan or some Gran Padano like this one. However, you need to be able to ensure that you grind it fairly small. You don't want big chunks of that. Garlic. Have ranch dressing without garlic. Now you can mix this up in the blender or with the stick blender like I did with the other two, or you can mix it by hand. If you're mixing it by hand, you just want to ensure that you chop this garlic a little bit finer than we did the last time, because you don't want too many big chunks when you're eating it. I would chop it finer than that, but in the interest of time. And very, very easily, just use a whip, and this is what we call an egg whip. There's piano whips and there's egg whips. The egg whips are more flexible and they actually whip more, as opposed to a piano whip, which is used more or less for sauces and things like that. It's a little more stiff. But here we have, this is almost a perfect consistency for ranch. I'll just try that. I'll let you know how it is. It's pretty good, but I'm going to give it a little bit of zest here. Now, an important note about this, in storage, we can store this in our cooler for, again, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. And we don't have to be afraid because it's mayonnaise, and I'll tell you why. People worry about mayonnaise and food poisoning and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. There's more or less a Cobb salad with a ranch dressing on it. But there's absolutely nothing in mayonnaise that is going to cause food poisoning. There's usually an egg yolk, but with pasteurization and everything today, there's no problem with that. And there's oil and there's vinegar. What the the issue is with mayonnaise is that people tend to use their knife and fork and they move it in. They use some tuna and then they put it back in their mayonnaise container. And it's the actual introduction of foreign ingredients that could cause any kind of a problem, because mayonnaise provides a nice medium for that to move about and to grow. But the mayonnaise on its own isn't really a problem. Yeah. Is there any questions about that?
Okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, so I'm recognizing the time, but obviously, if we go a couple minutes over, I think it's okay. So I'm gonna open it up if anyone has any questions. We had a couple come in throughout the demo, and you sort of touched on them, but there was one that I think I'm gonna ask again. So obviously fresh herbs, we're always talking about this in Ontario, especially. We love the summertime because our produce is so fresh and we don't get it all year round. So, you were saying if you have availability to herbs like in your garden, it's amazing. But obviously you can go to the grocery store or farmers markets and get some really great herbs. Any tips in terms of keeping them fresh, and when you're chopping them or tearing them, like how not to bruise them? I find that I'm constantly bruising my herbs.
Okay, that's a kind of a complex question, but it's easily answered. And bruising the herbs, there are some delicate ones, and I guess you just handle them delicately, basically, and don't handle them unless you're planning on using them. In terms of storing them and keeping them fresh, certain things like mint, for instance, this was super fresh a couple of hours ago, and it's already starting to wilt. But what I'm going to do with that is that I'll rinse it off with some cold water, and I'll wrap it up very tightly in saran wrap, put it in my fridge, and tomorrow morning it's going to be nice and crisp again. We can do that. Now with the basil, basil is very, very delicate, and if you get it too cold, or it'll wilt very quickly, and it'll go black, and it'll bruise, as you mentioned. If you're finished using it for today, you can try wrapping it very loosely in saran wrap and use it again tomorrow. But barring that, you can always take the whole pile of it, throw it in your blender with a little olive oil and a little garlic, and make pesto with it. And then the pesto can be frozen. And you can freeze it in an ice cube tray, for instance, and then pop out a little bit of pesto anytime you want it. So that's another way to salvage the basil. Or simply just cover it in olive oil so that there's no air, and leave it in your fridge. It's always nice to put a clove of garlic in there. And then actually you can use the oil when you're making a salad dressing and get extra basil flavor.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, rosemary and thyme, they can be dried quite easily. You can lay them out on a sheet tray and in a controlled kind of environment, let them sit overnight, they'll dry, and then you can almost shake the dried leaves off them and put them in a jar and use them anytime afterwards.
And save them. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Those are all great tips. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. So I just want to say thank you. Reached the end of our session. So a huge thank you to Chef. I was saying this earlier, it's really, really lovely to see your face because we don't get to see you on campus, and it's always so great when you join these events. So thank you very much for teaching us a little bit about salad dressings today. I think certainly within the chat, I was seeing people are going to make those ones tonight. So that's always great to hear. If anyone wants to get a little bit more information and you want to connect with Chef, we're going to put his information in the chat so we can do that. And then my last item, I just want to make sure, everyone knows that I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. So that's great from the first session and now to the second one. So there's still one more session to go today for AC summer market. So make sure to join on. Again, make sure that you're taking that time for yourself. And today is all about connecting with our college community. So we're so happy to see everybody. And we want to say thank you for joining. We're going to post the calendar link in the chat again. So, if you're not sure which session you want to join next, you can take a look. I am certainly hungry now watching Chef prepare these salad dressings. So obviously there's a bit of a break in between this one and the next one. So maybe everyone's gonna, start to make those salad dressings, which is great. So just a big thank you. Thank you to Chef. Thank you everyone for joining. And hopefully we will see you in the next summer market session. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.